Hi everyone, Anthony J. Tano here, the internet's busiest music nerd, and it's time for a review of the new Alt J record. This is all yours. This is the sophomore full-length LP from the Mercury Prize-winning UK-based art pop band, Alt J.
Hold on! Anthony, everybody, Alt J! I figured it out! It's Illuminati!
Dun dun dun! This band made their full-length debut a few years ago with the album An Awesome Wave. I gave it a nice review, loved it. Rarely does a band just drop out of the sky that has such an idiosyncratic sound from the word go. Alt J has a sound that is instantly recognizable. I would hear it and know it anywhere, but it's also so difficult to pin down into just a handful of words. The vocals above all in Alt J's music have maybe the most gripping characteristics to them, some very unique inflections and cadences. Their songs are also loaded with tons of lumbering, very primal, pronounced rhythms, heavy, thick, brooding bass lines, and guitars and synthesizers that are typically soaked in reverb, really fill up the atmosphere the band produces into their music. There's typically a very nice sheen on these, as well as the vocals, and the melodies Alt J delivers with this instrumentation could range from either very tender or very epic, depending on what the backing instrumentation is doing. They're a band that seems equally informed by English folk music, as well as just experimental odd rock. Now, despite their very strange style, Alt J's last full-length record had a lot of single power behind it. Outright viral songs with Fitzpleasure and Breeze Blocks and the song Tessellate. But the thing with this new record, I think its first big shortcoming was not bringing that same level of single power. The songs Alt J released before this record have not drummed up nearly as much interest as what they had for their previous record. This is just what happens when you've got a newer group that gets an immense amount of attention just suddenly, and then they have a newly formed and maybe sort of fickle fan base, and with their next album cycle, they start handing them surprising singles. It's a risk. And to kick this string of singles off, we get the song Hunger of the Pine, which it is like the anti-single just because it takes so long to build up momentum. In the context of the record, I think the song sounds way better, but by itself doesn't really get my mouth watering or anything like that. The theme melody of this track is sort of difficult to tease out of the instrumentation, and the Miley Cyrus vocal sample on this track was totally unexpected, though I think really cool in execution. It still had people just scratching their heads. And with the song Left Hand Free, it's like Alt J went in the complete opposite direction with a guitar riff that feels like it was lifted straight out of a 60s garage pop song. Alt J's typically odd vocals are there, but this is one of the band's most straightforward songs yet, and maybe fans of the last record took it as maybe being a little too basic. I think Every Other Freckle was the only single that really met Alt J's stylistic expectations. It's another sort of creepy, slow, brooding song, but also beautiful for the Alt J canon. It would have fit in very snugly on An Awesome Wave. I like the last two singles Alt J dropped, and with time, Hunger of the Pine did grow on me a little bit, and as I said earlier, it sounds way better in the context of this album, but I was just excited to kind of hear and see how these songs fit into the grander scheme of this track listing. And sadly, I think these singles kind of ended up being the album's best cuts. There's just several songs or so in the track listing here that don't really add that much to the overall album, or they're just needlessly uneventful or shy or quiet. This album definitely will test the patience of fans of the previous record, just like Hunger of the Pine, but that song eventually, it takes a little while, but eventually delivers. But the song Arrival in Nara, this track is a little bit too long of a cool down, considering how epic the almost 5-minute introduction of this album was. Or the song Choice Kingdom, which at its core seems like a really nice ballad, but the atmosphere that usually fills Alt J's songs goes relatively unfilled, with almost every piece of instrumentation taking 3 steps back in terms of volume, with nobody really coming through and making a strong, memorable statement, whether that be a lyrical one or a melodic one. It's like reading a whole page of text that is just nothing but punctuation, but there's no narrative or sentence or paragraph to pull all the punctuation together. Songs like Warm Foothills, for example, are a much more intimate and warmer change of pace, loving the song way more. Instrumentally, the song is gorgeous, it's lush. Musically, it creates the image that its title states. There are guitar arpeggios all over this thing that feel like just a really warm, nice, beautiful sunrise, strings, some shimmering, somewhat glitchy synthesizers, whistling, and I love the dual vocal play as well on this track. Another super creative moment for Alt J. And then immediately after this acoustic track, they go into an electronic direction. I love these twists and turns and combinations that the band does on this record. They do this combination again on the 2 following tracks. The song Pusher and Blood Flood Part 2, the sequel to Blood Flood off of An Awesome Wave, but these 2 tracks together, there's kind of a nice vibe and a segue with the piano chords of Blood Flood sounding very similar to some of the chords or just the musical passage finishing off Pusher. But on the song Gospel of John Hurt, there are some really chilling vocal chorus effects that sound quite dark and maybe even a little robotic on this song. It's very Laurie Anderson-esque. And off of this very cold intro, the band introduces a killer beat with some live drums mixed in there too. It feels very mechanical, but it has a serious groove to it. And a lot like on the song Hunger of the Pine, the track just continues to very slowly and subtly progress until you get this huge, almost orchestral-sized wall of sound, very heavy but gorgeous as well. To me, the second half of this record is so much more cohesive than the first, just one quality song after another. But the ending is a little lacking, unfortunately. Just a very short snippet before the song introduces maybe about 10 minutes of silence, and then we kind of get a track that is better than about 3 or 4 of the songs in the track listing. We're getting a secret track here, like it's 2001 or something. Unless it's some kind of B-sides EP or something, like if you've got something to say, just like say it in the record. I don't think this was a terrible follow-up for Alt J. I definitely have not lost faith in the band or anything like that, and I did come out enjoying a great deal of the songs here. And again, I think the singles, while a lot of what happened there was sort of new for Alt J, really sort of made much more sense in the context of the record itself. But I'm not gonna lie, there are some incredibly mundane moments in the track listing here. And there aren't as many immediate tracks on this album either. Not every song is actually worth the patience that it's demanding, in my opinion. Still, I did end up enjoying this album, found a great deal of it beautiful, feeling a decent to strong 7 on this thing.
Transition! If you've given this album a listen, what did you think of it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Why? What do you think I should review next? And that's it. Anthony Fantano here. Music, review, forever. Also, I shall let you know that if you go down to the description box, you can watch a review for the Sir Michael Rocks album Banco a week before it actually hits this channel. Cool? Cool. It's just right down there. Forever.